There was a time when life did not constantly explain itself. No notifications, no algorithms shaping desire, no endless reassurance that everything would be okay. If you grew up in the 1970s, you were shaped in that silence. And silence, as the ancients understood, is not emptiness, it is pressure. Pressure forms character. We speak to you now as we, because this is not nostalgia. This is recognition. Those years did not teach comfort. They taught endurance, and endurance leaves marks that do not fade. 1. You possess an unshakable relationship with solitude. If you grew up in the 1970s, solitude was not something you feared, it was something you inhabited. There were long stretches of time with no stimulation, no instant entertainment, no digital escape, and instead of being rescued from boredom, you were left inside it. This is where something rare was formed. You learned how to sit with yourself. Most people today experience solitude as deprivation. Silence makes them restless. Being alone feels like a threat. But the Stoics saw solitude differently, as a testing ground for the mind. Seneca wrote that a person who cannot endure their own company is already enslaved. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by power and chaos, still retreated inward, reminding himself that peace does not come from fewer people, but from fewer dependencies. Growing up when alone time was unavoidable taught you how to build an inner world that does not collapse without external input. You learned to think without distraction, to reflect without performance, to exist without being observed. This is not social withdrawal, it is inner independence. Because of this, you are less desperate for constant connection. You can enjoy people without needing them to complete you. You can walk away from noise without feeling empty. You do not confuse loneliness with solitude, a distinction many never learn. This trait becomes more visible as the world grows louder. You notice how others panic when left alone with their thoughts, how they seek constant validation, constant interaction, constant stimulation, but you remain steady. Not because you are disconnected, but because you are rooted. The Stoics believed that the strongest mind is one that can retreat inward without fleeing reality. Solitude, when mastered, becomes a refuge rather than a prison, and this mastery changes how you move through life. You are harder to manipulate because manipulation feeds on emotional dependence. You are harder to destabilize because chaos requires inner emptiness to take hold. You are harder to exhaust because you know how to replenish yourself in silence. This is why you may seem distant to some, not cold, but self-contained. You do not chase attention. You do not fear absence. You understand that meaning is not always loud. Epictetus taught that no one is free who is not master of themselves. Solitude was one of the earliest teachers of that mastery for you. You learned long before it was fashionable that being alone does not mean being lost. It means being undistracted. And in an age addicted to noise, distraction, and constant presence, this ability is no longer common. It is rare, and rarity, when combined with discipline, becomes quiet power. We carry this not as pride, but as responsibility. To remain grounded, to remain composed, to show, without announcing, that a person who can stand alone can also stand firm. This is not a weakness from another era, it is a strength the modern world has almost forgotten. 2. You understand the value of patience in a way few ever do. If you grew up in the 1970s, you learned something that the modern world has all but abandoned. That patience is not passive, it is powerful. Life moved slower then. Information did not arrive instantly. Achievements required effort stretched over months, sometimes years. Waiting was not optional, it was inevitable. And in that waiting, something rare and profound was cultivated, the ability to endure without surrendering to frustration or despair. The Stoics constantly emphasized patience as a form of strength. Epictetus wrote, "No great thing is created suddenly." Seneca reminded us that time discovers truth. The virtue was not about idly tolerating delay, but about embracing it as an arena for growth, reflection, and self-mastery. Those who grew up in a world without immediate gratification had no choice but to live this lesson daily. They knew that hurry is the enemy of depth. That impulsive reaction often destroys what careful attention can build. This patience manifests in subtle ways. You are slower to anger, not because you are indifferent, but because you have trained yourself to see the bigger picture. You assess, you reflect, and you respond with measured strength. Where others see waiting as weakness or wasted time, you recognize it as a refinement of character, a sharpening of the mind, and a cultivation of inner peace. In the modern world, impatience masquerades as ambition. Instant results, rapid communication, and relentless speed convince many that life can be compressed into moments rather than lived through experiences. But the 1970s taught a different rhythm. You learned that meaningful work, enduring relationships, and true understanding cannot be forced. They grow incrementally through consistent effort and thoughtful presence. This understanding creates a rare kind of confidence. You do not flinch when progress is slow. You are unmoved by the frantic, shallow energy around you. You know that time is an ally, not an enemy, and that endurance without distraction leads to mastery over both self and circumstance. Patience also cultivates clarity. The world can tempt the mind with distractions, but a patient soul sees through them. You observe patterns, understand intentions, and make decisions from a foundation of composure rather than impulse. This is why highly patient people often appear wise beyond their years. Their insight is not borrowed from haste, but earned through disciplined observation over time. Perhaps the most stoic lesson in all of this is that patience teaches detachment. The things that disturb many, delays, failures, misunderstandings, touch you less because you recognize their transience and their insignificance in the grand design of your life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the obstacle often becomes the way, and with patience we see the obstacle not as a curse, but as an opportunity to strengthen the mind. Those who matured in this era carry a hidden advantage. In a world addicted to speed, to instant results, and to impulsive emotion, patience is a silent power, a rare strength that forms the backbone of resilience, wisdom, and true freedom. And so we move through life not desperate for immediacy, not anxious for outcomes, but steadfast, knowing that everything unfolds in its proper time and that those who endure wisely always arrive stronger than those who rush. 3. You possess an innate sense of self-reliance. Growing up in the 1970s meant learning early that life doesn't hand you answers. There were no smartphones to Google solutions, no instant tutorials, no constant notifications guiding your decisions. You had to figure things out. And in that figuring, you developed a rare kind of inner strength, self-reliance. The Stoics held self-reliance as a cornerstone of freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." Those who matured in an era of scarcity and slower communication were forced to heed this wisdom. When you faced a problem, you could not outsource it. You had to think, reason, and act independently. That habit of self-dependence forged clarity, resilience, and courage. Self-reliance also teaches emotional fortitude. You learned that others might disappoint, that circumstances could be harsh, and that relying solely on external validation or support leaves you vulnerable. The Stoic approach to this is unmistakable. Happiness and control come from mastering your own mind, not from bending the world to your will. Seneca reminds us, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." This power is earned through repeated practice of patience, reason, and thoughtful action, all hallmarks of a self-reliant spirit. Moreover, self-reliance nurtures a quiet confidence. You don't feel compelled to prove yourself to every passerby or chase fleeting approval. You understand that your worth stems from how you navigate life's challenges, not from the recognition you receive. In a modern society addicted to comparison and external validation, this detachment is a rare trait, almost revolutionary. Finally, this independence encourages resourcefulness. You can solve problems creatively, adapt when plans fail, and find solutions where others see only obstacles. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to exercise judgment, patience, and resilience, the very qualities the Stoics prized. To possess self-reliance in the modern world is to hold a secret advantage. While many falter under dependency and distraction, we who cultivate our own inner strength move steadily forward. Our minds are calm, our choices deliberate, and our spirits unshaken. In a life that tests every limit, self-reliance ensures that we are never truly powerless, because the most unassailable power resides within ourselves. This is why those who grew up without constant guidance carry an unseen armor, a mind disciplined, a heart resilient, and a spirit untouchable, the quiet signature of Stoic strength. 4. You value patience over impulse. Growing up in the 1970s taught a generation that everything takes time. There were no instant answers, no same-day deliveries, no constant feeds to gratify every whim. You had to wait, plan, and work deliberately. This cultivated a rare quality, patience. The Stoics believed that patience is not passive. It is an active exercise of self-control and reason. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity with patience." Those who grew up without modern conveniences learned to endure delays, setbacks, and obstacles without panic. They understood that rushing never solves the problem, and that calm persistence shapes results far more effectively than frantic effort. Patience also strengthens emotional resilience. When others react impulsively to frustration, we remain composed. Life's uncertainties no longer disturb the mind because we have practiced the art of waiting, observing, and choosing our responses deliberately. Marcus Aurelius reminds us how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it. Patience protects the mind from unnecessary turmoil, allowing us to act with clarity and precision rather than reaction. Furthermore, patience fosters foresight and wisdom. It encourages us to consider consequences before acting, to analyze rather than react, and to understand that lasting outcomes emerge from careful cultivation. In a world addicted to speed, this measured approach is rare, almost revolutionary. Those who mastered patience early carry an inner strength that cannot be shaken. We act deliberately, endure quietly, and approach life with a calm, unbreakable center. In embracing patience, we follow the Stoic path, mastering our impulses, strengthening our minds, and achieving a resilience that others spend a lifetime chasing. Patience is not just a habit. It is a defining trait of the quietly powerful, and those who possess it move through life untouchable by chaos, unshaken by urgency, and guided by the steady force of reason. We live in a time of noise, volatility, and emotional excess, and yet those forged in quieter, harsher conditions often stand unshaken, not because life was easier, but because it wasn't. What you carry is not nostalgia. It is temperance, resilience, and internal authority. The Stoics believed that adversity, properly endured, refines the soul. If you recognize yourself here, do not shrink your nature to fit a softer age. Refine it, steady it, lead with it, because the traits you carry are not outdated, they are rare. And in times like these, rarity becomes a source of strength. Get exclusive content and deeper insights. Join our membership today. Link in the description. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the Stoic Verse for more wisdom to guide your journey.